We're back with NATO 61, MDG games, Carrie Anderson. We're at the M+2 turn, and the war started escalating right into tactical nuclear warfare right from the beginning, which the Warsaw Pact, or more specifically the Soviets, took advantage of to quickly decimate NATO. And at this point, from a victory point of view, NATO still has the lead, but not for long. Three more urban axes, like Hamburg, or coming down here, we've got one in Nuremberg, and we have Munich here, and that would be the switch on the VPs there. The other problem is this. NATO doesn't have any delivery mechanism for onboard tactical nukes. Only the UK and the US units have tactical nuke capability. The one UK HQ is here and could move up in the turn and deliver 5 nukes maybe and decimate these guys. There is a one-step US unit here. We've got the US headquarters got driven far back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They could attack here and drive back that HQ. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They could maybe kill the lead units here. There is a one-stepper down here too. The NATO is going to get air points, but the Warsaw Pact purposely held back. They got a 4 last time, and they purposely held back their air units. And West Berlin has fallen, and so all these units are still going to come rushing through here, and NATO doesn't have very many units left, to be honest. Reinforcement-wise, we see that the Warsaw Pact is going to get at least 2 more big reinforcement waves, and the U.S., well, not too much. So it does look bleak and then they've got the 5 victory points here for Denmark. So when we look at this, option number 1 for NATO is to attempt to continue to fight the tactical nuclear battle, because conventional warfare is kind of rendered irrelevant kind of when you're launching tactical nukes. So, but there are so many, and I'm using an arbitrary rule that NATO will not drop nukes or tactical nukes on any West German cities. Just makes sense here at this point. Now, if you catch them in the open, we will drop nukes on them. So they could continue to fight, but to be honest, based on the large numbers of, especially Soviet unions, just fighting a purely tactical nuclear battle here in Europe, they're not going to win. Now, another thing they could do is maybe ask for a ceasefire. I doubt seriously that the Soviets would take it. Sorry about that, my screen's not refreshing right. So, and what happens with the ceasefires, it does shift the world opinion one, and you get a world opinion die roll. And I did try and want to look at that. Let's see if it'll work now. There we go. So looking at this, if they ask for a ceasefire, and it has to be at the end of their turn, then it would shift to here, and we'd get a world opinion roll, which it'll be no modifiers. So 2 dice, we could get riots to nothing here, or 2 riots in West Germany. Accident, there's no automatic there. We've already, well, then we'd escalate to strategic if we got that. We got unrest, protests, and it does shift. But that would take a while to do, and to be able to ask for a ceasefire, NATO, per the rules, has to do nothing that turn. I guess we can look at that real quick. Let me get all this stuff off to the side here. So if we do look at a ceasefire, that's back here. World opinion. World opinion. Hold on, we'll find it here in just a second. Here we go, here's a ceasefire. Either player may ask for a ceasefire during the player's end phase. During the current player turn, the asking player may not enter any enemy zones of control unless you've started in them, conducted any combat, conducted any air missions, used any nuclear weapons, moved any of his units closer to the enemy, or closer to the enemy's board edge, and no acts of aggressions. And then we'll see if they, if Warsaw Pact agrees, the victory points are as is, and NATO will barely win. So no interest in Warsaw Pact doing. We get a world opinion shift and a world opinion die roll. So the Soviets won't go for that because they'll lose if we're just purely playing the game. So the choices are ceasefire probably won't help because then we won't do anything. They'll refuse. We may get a riot or something and shift world opinion, but then the hordes will continue here. And yeah, these are actual Soviet units now, so they can start nuking in here. And these will come up. This one will come up pretty fast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so probably reduce the Frankfurt area here this next turn. So ceasefire with the Soviets with not accepting it is not a good option either. So NATO has to do something more drastic. And we come up here to nuclear combat. And the next level up is strategic. Okay. And if we look at the chart here, that's where they still have some advantage remaining. And I'll show you where it is mainly. So we've got our ICBMs, 61. There weren't a lot. There aren't very many at all of the Soviets here, and there are about 57 Atlases here of varying capability. Medium range, intermediate range in the theater. Well, this is a daunting number, 212 SS4s. Submarines, there's 3 warheads times 2 is 6. While this one has, well, there's 19 of these. Not much I can do about them. You can't strike those. And then bombers, they have a good number, but this is the big advantage. U.S. has many bombers. I mean, we're talking over 1,000, 1,300 bombers. A totally different number, and they've got multiple warheads. The B-52s have 4 warheads of 5. I don't know, 5 is just the yield value. So if NATO did a counterforce strike, kind of a preemptive strike, they could probably take these out, and they could take these out. Okay. The problem is still the SS4s, but these can only be used on the map. And these. So, these are a problem here. 19 times 3 times 2 is what their yield is, which is 60, almost 120. And they even have an anti-missile capability against soft missiles here. So, what to do? So I'd already before this done some calculations. Not much to do about the SSBNs, these Golfs. But again, we're left with mainly the B-47s and the B-52s. There are just so many of them. So to at least whittle down, the main target with the counterforce strike would be their intercontinental capabilities, which would be in these missiles here and these bombers here. And unfortunately, NATO can't touch the Golfs. the SSBNs. So these will remain. If succeed in destroying all these and destroying all these, then this is all that will remain of the Soviet capability to do counter value strikes or true strategic strikes against population, just the submarines. And then these, well, these can wreak havoc in Europe, but to be honest, at this point, um, inevitably there's not going to be much left. Now, driving home point with this is don't go nuclear. It's a genie in a bottle. So, NATO's posed with those three choices. Try and fight tactically, but it looks like they're doomed to lose, and more of Germany will be nuked, or uh, ask for a ceasefire. Soviets can ignore it at least for the next two turns, based on world opinion. And by then, the question if there'll be anything left on the board. So what we can do is we escalate to strategic nuke, and we're allowed an initial counterforce strike, and then we start trading strikes back and forth. So for the sake of this game, we're going to test out the counterforce rules. And the way this works, we're going to target missiles first. And depending on the missile you're firing, we have a soft and a hard target. Now, these bold ones are hard targets. Okay, so if we're looking at these capabilities here, we see that to hit a hard target, we've got to roll a 1 or a 2 on a 1d6. Okay, for these. Now, when we go after soft targets, we do see that we get a higher number. The Atlas E is real effective, and the D is not far behind it. So these can be used for counterforce. These weapons can only be used in theater, so these numbers here only apply to when these missiles are shooting at each other. Polaris can't even do it, but it does look like the Gulfs have a KS capability against missiles. And then bombers are different. You look at the yield. So, if one Atlas E with a yield of 4 would get to roll 4d6, and the total is the number of bombers destroyed. Okay, so those are the actual, and you see this down here. It's the yield is the number of d6, and it's the total number of hits here. So I played with the numbers here. So against the SS6s, which are soft missile targets, 10 Atlas Ds, which have a KS of 3, and 7 Atlas Es, which have a KS of 4. So a total of 17 dice, 10 of which needs 1, 2, or 3, and 7 of which need a 1, 2, 3, or 4. Okay. And then against the hard targets, that's tougher. Total of 30 missiles, and you got to roll a 1 or 2. So hopefully after this, these will all be gone. Then the Polarises, they can't be used against missiles, but they can be used against bombers. So there'll be a total of, and they've got 0.5. So I've got a total of 5, we'll say Polaris submarines, SSBNs, and they each have 16 missiles of 0.5. So 3 of them, it would be like 3 times 16 times 0.5, so that'd be 24 dice. And then the Atlas, I'm only going to dedicate 5 of these, but since they have a yield of 4, that's 20 more dice. So I'm hoping between the two of those, by the end of the turn, these two will be wiped out, these two will be wiped out. A dent in the 212, but this is a use it or lose it right here, because these can come back and blow them away. And then moving forward, the ace in the hole for the U.S. are all these bombers, which can be used for onboard strikes against units, and if it does escalate to going against the populations, then they can be used there. And this is actually the most powerful. Yeah, B-52s, they've got 4 warheads of 5 yield, so that's the strongest one out there. B-47 is okay. B-58s, well, they're just fast. So with that said, yep, we're going to do the counterforce strike here. and see if we can succeed. Now there is a massive die roll here that we can use to handle all our dice rolls. So, alright, let's work through the KS numbers against the SS6s. There's only 4. So we've got 10 atlases. 10 atlases. Let me scoot this over here. Yeah. 10 of the Atlas Ds. Atlas Ds have a KS of 3. So you got to roll a 1, 2, or 3 for it to be effective. Here, let's just look at the rules here. Okay, missiles against, use the KS value of the firing missile. Roll a number of dice equal to the warheads. Any roll less than or equal to is a hit, is scored and destroyed. Okay. And just to let you know, this isn't a swapping kind of attack. When we do a counterforce strike, a simultaneous series of attacks against opponent's strategic nuclear arsenal, the attacking announces intention to conduct a counterforce strike. Play is temporarily suspended. The opponent may not conduct any nuclear strikes himself until the announced counterforce strike is resolved. So we do see here, pretty much besides the bombers, the U.S. is using their full arsenal here to do this. And I didn't roll for the number of air points in the air phase, but I mean, I would have done this right after that. So again, so against the SS6, they're soft targets, use the KS. So we're going to roll 10 dice, and everything 1, 2, or 3 destroys 1. This may finish it off, actually. And I don't have more dice, so we got 2, and then we got 1 hit. Okay, 2, 4, nothing. 6, not good. 8, 2 hits. 10, that's it, 2 hits. Not very impressive here. But now the Atlas, he has a KS, I guess I'm glad I put them there, of 4. So 1, 2, 3, or 4 deploys 1, and I've given 7 of these. So let's see, 2 hits. That's it. That's 4, and these have been eliminated. Okay. All eliminated. Okay, so, and then all these weapons have been expended. Okay, this one's tougher. It's KH. Got to roll a 1 or 2. So basically this is 30 dice. Got to roll a 1 or 2. Okay. So let's see if we can do this. Let me think about how to do this. Well, wow. 2 hits. No hits. I'm going to put this 2 hits here and we're at 4. That's 4. 6. 8. That's another hit. 10. That's another hit. Nice rolling. 10. And there it is again, 2. That takes us to 6. And they're all eliminated. So Russian ICBMs have been eliminated. Now here's a tougher one. I'm not going to do these right now. Let's look at this. Basically, it's the yield is a number of dice. So we see here we're going to have 3 times 8 is 24, 5 times 4 is 20. So we got 44 dice against this. And the way you do that is you use this massive dice roll. So we do a 30 roll and a 10 roll and then 4 dice. Okay? And you roll 2 dice. So the 30 roll is a 6. That's 103. Boom, they're gone. Kind of overkill. Counting on the bombers to do anything after that. So these have been eliminated. And then we do the same thing. Yeah, we got 16, 36. So again, we'll do a 30 roll. A 10. And that's 117. They're gone. So again, overkill. Now, of course, NATO has used a number of basically used all their SSBNs, and they've used all their atlases. And then we're left with this one. Wow, 105 rolls. Really don't know how to do that. Let me look at that in a second. 105 rolls, I can maybe do an average. And it's against a KS. So if we look at the Jupiter and the Thor, actually the Jupiter has a 3 and the Thor has a 4. But we're only going to maybe cut this in half. So 60 at 4, probably just going to do even odds on this instead of rolling the dice. 4 is 2/3, so that would be 40 hits. I don't know any other way to do this. And then the Jupiter is a half, so we'll say 22 hits. So that's 62 hits. Okay, I just took the half average. So that means this number is down to 150. More than enough, really, to do a lot of damage on the board. So there we go. The counterforce strike is finished. There are no Russian bombers anymore. There are no Russian ICBMs. But there are a lot of these. 19 times 3 is 57. 57 of these with a 2 yield and a KS. These could be launched against the bombers maybe in response. They could respond with their own counterforce, but I'll have to think about that. So we have elevated street. Oh, but one other thing does happen now. I got to do two things actually, and then we'll pause here to let the Soviets think about the Soviet reaction on the next phase. First, I'm going to roll 1d6 for U.S. air power. They got 2. So unfortunately, that's not enough to really do anything. And it seems almost anything that they do, the Soviets are going to come and do it, be able to prevent them at this point. So let's do this. Okay, so the air power is not going to help. And the other thing we have to do is, since we've escalated, we have to go to the world opinion track. And boom. And there's a -2 on the die roll. So we have to roll. So let's go to the charts here. Hopefully this will come up. Yep. And we'll go to the world opinion. And we're going to roll 2d6 -2 and see what, if anything, happens. 9 down 7, nothing. Nothing happens. But the Soviets, because they didn't do it first, do get they're a bump. They go from 5 to 9 victory points now on the world opinion. So if we go here, yep, and let's see, where's world opinion in here? Yeah, well, I could find it here in a second. World opinion, that goes to 9. So now they're at 111. So now the Soviets have to decide what to do. What are they going to do with their SSBNs? They could go after the U.S. bombers if they go counterforce. And then they've got a whole bunch of these intermediate missiles, which can be used on the board here as strikes too. So a lot to think about. Or they could just use their submarines to cause casualties on homelands. I don't know if they could probably knock the UK out of the war. Anyway, interesting twist to the game here. This game is probably going to end pretty soon, and whoever wins by victory points is going to be one of those Pyrrhic, I guess that's how you pronounce that word. There won't be anything left. So again, the lesson here is don't start launching nukes. So next recording, thanks for listening. We will see what the Soviet reaction is to this preemptive strike by the United States. Thanks for listening.